Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Four Words Podcast. My name is Aaron Toombs Spikinator Harris, and thanks for joining us. I am joined by three moderately attractive gentlemen.
There we go.
Some in
Thank
some
goodness.
eastern regions in most third world countries.
What?
They are Stephen Frostbite Allen,
Moderate indeed.
Scott Haberdashing Sesterhen,
Yeah, I'm not trying to shoot for the fences here. I'll take moderate.
and Michael Asderish Matthews,
Average is good. Yeah,
It's,
all right.
it's average.
It's okay.
aka Jesus,
I'll take
or
it.
Young Yeezy.
Some people would consider that blasphemy, but you know what? Not here.
So, welcome to the podcast, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us again this week, and I am so sorry. First, want to point out that our episode was posted late again, real late again, last week's episode. So, really want to apologize for that again. And we're gonna make sure that this week's episode is out on time. But part of the reason is because not only do we do the show, do the notes, do the research, set up guests, and plan the show and stream it and all that sort of stuff and manage the email and the Twitter and all that. But we also post it and we produce it and everything. And when any one of us is out of sync, it can screw up a lot of things. Or if we're having technical problems or whatever, it can screw up a lot of things. It makes it difficult. So, one of the things we really want to reach out to you, the community, for is if you have any experience in producing podcasts, producing audio, doing audio production, and working with posting shows, FTP sites, things like that, please hit us up. You can hit us up on Twitter, just at the number 4 Words Podcast, or you can hit us up at what's the email? 4wordspodcast at trinityforcenetwork.com.
It's 4 Wars.
4 words.
Yeah.
4 words. So the word 4.
Podcast.net. Yes. Com.
.com. Yeah.
We ain't
4
no
words
.net
at
site, please.
yeah. 4 words at
We worked hard for that
trinityforcepodcast.com. Please let us know if you're interested and if you can help and what your experience is. And hopefully you can help us out and we can help you out with getting you something to throw on a resume or just to join the network, have some fun with us. So thanks so much for that. On to the news. T-Force 5v5 tourney is set for February 20th. It's a Saturday at 4 p.m. We're going to have teams that represent not only most of our podcasts in the network, but other podcasts. I know the LOL Anonymous podcast, The Lane, Just Okay Gamers, a lot of people getting in on it. So if you want, check out our subreddit, reddit.com/r/T-Force Network, and you can sign up for that and get in on that fun. Also, there is a straw poll up there. Right now, we did set up a Discord finally. And I believe it's just discord.com/T-Force Network.
Yeah, it should be up on the Reddit site as well,
Yes.
but we're asking everyone right now to fill out a short survey, a straw poll survey, to let the community know if you'd rather stick with TeamSpeak or move to Discord.
Yeah.
So if you have a preference either way, please check that out. Give us your input. That'll be good.
Yeah, let us know which one you'd rather use, or try, hopping into TeamSpeak, hop into Discord, check them out and see what you like more. Also, repository link, we're going to throw this in probably the outro of the podcast pretty soon here. We're going to re-record that. But repository link, all old episodes past a certain point, the episodes are only on our site up to a certain episode. I think it's about 12 or 15 episodes ago. So if you go to TFPCDN, so just think Trinity Force Podcast Content Delivery Network, so tfpcdn.com/4words. That's where you can download all of our old episodes. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome, and you want to go back and listen to old episodes that we reference, that's where you can listen to them and download them for your listening pleasure.
And that's
Um,
4 wards, the spelled out
Spelled
FOUR.
out.
It'd be nice if we could just have it one way.
Yeah, it would be, but yeah. Also, a little teaser, tee February 25th, we are resuming our Art of League series. It returns with Pseudonaut, of course, and we're going to have some special guests. We're going to do 2 episodes back to back. We're going to do Top Lane next with a very super secret special guest that we'll announce later. And also, we're going to be redoing the Art of Support one with another super secret special guest. So please tune in, check it out, and get hyped. February 25th. You're going to want to be here for the live stream, and you're going to want to listen to that episode.
Yeah. For everyone wondering, we're going to get to that AD carry one eventually. We're still working out another guest with John here to do the book with.
I'm kind of glad we didn't release it originally, because by the time we would have released it, all the
Oh,
marksman
man.
items
Yeah,
would have been changed.
Right. So he wanted to redo the Art of Support from an outside perspective anyways. So, we figured we'd do that again here.
Yeah, so definitely, like I said, stay tuned. February 25th is going to be the Art of Top. The following week will be Art of Support rehash, I guess you would call it. And from there, let's hop into our discussion this week. Is our item of the week, our item breakdown, whatever you want to call this segment. I don't know. We don't really officially have a name for it yet.
We tried before, it didn't really stick.
Yeah. So our item discussion this week is on Magi's Soul Stealer, and who better to kick that off than one of our resident mid laners? Let's go to Frost.
Resident Sleeper.
Hedgeyes is the man mode of AP items. Like
or woman mode,
Or of course. This is the item that you buy when you are confident that you are either going to snowball like crazy, or you feel confident enough that you can continually gain a lead while being virtually unkillable. And it's funny enough that we have Azdarishan on here, because one of the champions he plays quite a lot of is a common candidate for this item when she gets ahead. I don't know what champion that would be, but
I don't know either.
Poppy.
Malzahar.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, Lux is great with it because, like, as you begin to get kills early on, because that's what you're going to start to do. Level 6, like, that's exactly your goal is a kill and to roam and get assists. So, I mean, this item is just great for her. If you think you can play safe and keep your stacks safe, oh my goodness, try it out. Just at least try it out.
Mhm.
It's super
Yeah.
fun.
She's not the only one that's a real
Absolutely not. No.
candidate for it. Other people like LeBlanc, Cassidy.
real-
But let's talk about the actual item here first. And we can start talking about Soul Stealer before we start talking about a newer addition to the game called the Dark Seal. This is the item that builds into Magi's Soul Stealer now. The stats on that, it costs 400 gold, gives 100 mana, 15 ability power, and gives 25% increased healing from health and refillable potions. It's unique, called Dread, grants 3 ability power per stacks of glory. Glory, you get 2 stacks of glory or 6 AP for a champion kill, and 1 glory or 3 AP from an assist, up to a maximum of 10 stacks or 30 AP. However, if you die, you lose 4 glory stacks or 12 AP.
yeah, and to say that in
And
terms
therein
of
lies the rub.
if in
For
case
in
the
death, what stacks we lose.
in case the words glory confused you, basically, if you get an assist, you're getting 3 AP. If you get a kill, you're getting 6 AP. And if you die, you're losing 12 AP.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different from how the item used to work, this whole glory mechanic. And if the next time you load up the game, you'll see what we're talking about. But Haber basically summed it up. It's you gain a little bit of AP for every kill and assist, and if you get punished when you die. And that's really what makes this item so unique between Dark Seal and Magi's, is that it's an item where you really, really get punished hard if you suddenly die or get caught. and it's also very relevant for tonight's discussion. But really, if you're able to avoid dying, like you're really comfortable, and the reason why I brought up Lux earlier is because of how much range she has. If you can maintain a safe range and continue to be a threat in fights, the system will reward you by making you more and more powerful than any traditional item would get you for that cost.
Yeah. Small little anecdote. I remember one game we were playing against a Lux that went first item Mage Eyes, and then built a Roa, and then a Warmogs.
Oh my goodness.
Just because at that point, like, she had so much health, and you could not kill her, so she would never drop her fully stacked Mage Eyes at that point.
Yeah.
It was so fucking frustrating.
Now, that's not necessarily saying that's optimal, but that just
No.
it just goes to show how good the stats are when you fully stack all those glory stacks and get all that bonus AP. So, as Haber was mentioning, it starts with Dark Seal, and then you pay a little bit of more money. So Medjai's itself costs 1,400. The Dark Seal is 400, and once it's upgraded, Medjai's Soul Stealer gives you 200 mana and 20 ability power, and it carries over the glory mechanic from the previous item. So if you have a certain number of stacks and then you upgrade it, you have those same stacks on the Medjai Soul Stealer.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Although Soul Stealer does have a cap of 25 glory versus 15 or 10, sorry, for the seal. So total, if you get the whole stacks, you're getting 125 AP plus the 20 from the item, along with 10% movement speed, which starts at 15 glory.
Jeez. That's
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
So there's the thing about this item is that it really encourages a certain play style, and it really encourages the enemy team to adopt a certain play style. The first and foremost for the person who's buying it is you want to continue to get those stacks, and above all, you really, really don't want to lose the stacks, because there's nothing like dying once because you got ganked and then all of a sudden losing like half of your damage output. And on the flip side, if you're playing against somebody with Medjai's, the sooner you realize that they bought the item, like press the tab button and try and find out. If you can target and focus that person and you can get them to lose some stacks, it's a magical moment where not only are you going to get shutdown gold, but you're also just going to significantly hurt their damage output.
Well, and like also the other thing is if you see them purchase Magi's, start calling for ganks immediately. Start just like ping, ping, ping for ganks. And me personally, as a jungler, like, and for any of you other junglers out there, if you see someone build the Dark Seal, that is a lane you want to gank because you know they're going to be aggressive. You know they're going for kills. So the earlier you can shut them down and make that Dark Seal purchase useless and make, you know, them getting Magi's a stupid, pointless thing, the better.
Well, I think, and it's also not just that as well, to chime in here, it's also the enemy jungler is going to want to be focusing that lane as well. And that's going to be easy pickings for your mid laner. So you're also defending your mid laner as well. Like, not just shutting down the enemy mid laner, but protecting your mid laner in general. Because that's going to draw a lot of attention in general.
Do we mention the movement speed?
Yeah.
I don't, okay. Yeah. So
10%.
After you've reached a certain threshold, it's
15
glory. You also get movement speed. So not only are they getting crazy amount of AP, like 10% movement speed is a significant buff.
So,
yeah, I mean, it makes it so they can snowball harder. And in this current meta that's really heavily focused on snowballing, I mean, you know, it could make someone a monster because that 10% movement speed just gives them the ability to roam so much easier. And you give that to LeBlanc or a Kassadin or, you know, Fizz or anything like that, and it's going to spell trouble.
Yeah, it's just good to remember that unlike the old Medjai's, this is It's balanced well because of how much you lose if you die. On the Magi Soul Stealer item, every time you die, you lose 10 stacks of glory or 50 AP. That's a shit ton to lose, which
Yeah.
makes this item such a rare pickup. Um, I don't think outside of like the really, really stompy games in competitive, you never see it except for Janna. Um, and even in solo queue, unless someone's really confident in their matchup, they won't pick this up because it's just another big um, variable you're throwing into your game.
Yeah, it's really high. I mean, it's the epitome of high risk, high reward.
Mhm.
And most of the time, you don't need to assume that risk. And a lot of times, it's not worth it to assume that risk. But there are certain situations where you feel extremely confident, or you feel like the champion you're playing and the way the enemy team is playing, that they can't reliably kill you. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to push my advantage even harder. I'm going to invest in an item that lets me snowball like crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I would say with this item, one of the biggest piece of advice we can give you is that if you're gonna go for this item, I mean, you have to go for it. You got to go all in on it. Like, don't hold back, and you got to take those risks. But at the same time, if you're going to play like that, build like that, and take those risks, make sure you just know your champion inside and out, because you're just going to piss off a lot of your teammates if you feed or don't carry with this item.
All right. I think we can wrap up the Magi's discussion, and we can move into a trinket tip. We actually have two technical trinket tips. The first one is more of an FYI. So,
Yes, because you've heard it everywhere already. But just so you know, make sure you're locking in when you're doing dynamic queue.
yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
End of rant.
that also applies to your bans too. I've seen a lot of people that
Right.
think they don't have to ban anymore, and then they get kicked out of games. You have to lock in your ban as well. But to move on to an actual gameplay specific trinket tip, it's about the importance of knowing how to properly chain CC and really the value that adds. A lot of times people hear terms like wombo combo, and they hear things about like crowd control, and they think like it's so great, like just like throw down a bunch of like crowd control, stuns, knockups, all these things at once. But if you, in reality, to make the best use of crowd control, you really want to not overlap them. To give an example that I find on a common basis is if somebody were to gank my lane and I'm playing Twisted Fate, which is very common. If somebody ganks my lane and they, let's say, knock them up with the Rek'Sai knockup, or they stun the enemy laner, I'm not going to throw my gold card right away. I'm going to wait until right as their crowd control is about to end, and then I'm going to hit them with my CC. And by doing that, I create a much longer duration of crowd control without wasting anything in between.
Right. So I think it was like early season 5, Riot added in the CC timer bar.
Yeah.
Below the
was gonna
champion's
mention
health.
that, So thank you for doing
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's really important, and it's an easy way to start measuring ways to overlap your CC. So you're waiting until the bar is almost out, not all the way out, before you use your CC, because a lot of champions, whether it's using flash, a dash, blink, something like that, if there's a small window in between, that skill will go off
Well,
if you don't properly layer your CC.
To say that,
Absolutely.
though, at the same time, there are opportunities to where if you let that happen, you can bait out a flash. Because I can't tell you how many people make the so common mistake of just being like, oh shit, mashing D or F or whatever it is, and they're already screwed no matter where they flash. So like,
Absolutely.
give them the window, hell, let them have it, and let them blow their flash so you finish them off. It's just extra bonus for you.
To Asderson's point, that can happen, but if you are relying on killing them before they can get a flash or a dash off, this could be the difference between getting enough damage so that they actually get killed and executed before they're able to escape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if a whole lot more needs to be said on that. It takes a little practice, learning the missile speed of certain projectiles like Morgana's Q to be able to land it correctly. Um, but just start paying attention more to that little gray bar below their health.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's not too hard, and honestly, I can say from my personal experience, it's paid off a number of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's move on here to our main topics of the week. Last week we talked about how to get carried. We want to do a quick refresher on how to carry. We say refresher because we did an episode on this already when we talked about snowballing. This is back under episode 23, so you can go back to that repository and check that out if you want to. First and foremost thing we talked about was first gaining advantage in lane or in jungle. Most importantly through things like CS. So
Yes.
this is why we harp on CS a lot and just getting into custom games and practicing how to properly CS on a certain champion.
Absolutely, because like the way the math kind of plays out is that every 15 CS is a kill, more or less. So
Yeah.
15
So-
to 18.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
depending on what time.
you really want to make sure you're focusing on getting your CS. And when it comes down to playing aggressively and getting kills versus getting good, consistent CS, getting good, consistent CS is almost always going to play out better in your favor. And so really focus on getting CS.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing is you want to gain an advantage, and you can't go into every game like I'm gonna be 5-0 out of laning phase. Like that's gonna rely heavily on how you play versus your opponents, what mistakes they make, and things like that. But if straight up missing CS in laning phase is something that you can work on, it's something you can practice, you can drill, and if you're just able to consistently farm well on your champion and out farm your opponents, that alone could make a huge difference in terms of gaining a gold lead. And something as small as a gold lead from farming could transition to many other advantages if you know how to push them.
So a couple other things we talk about for gaining advantage. You need to know how to trade in your lane. And a lot of that really does come from knowing the matchup that you're in, or at least your champion, baiting out cooldowns and waiting for opportunities to engage.
Yeah, someone actually just posted in the Twitch chat here, is there a golden rule between harassment and CSing? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean CS is probably the most important thing, but
Like the golden rule, like I guess if I could make one.
Yeah.
If you're going to harass, it should always end up in a net gold advantage for you. Whether that's directly through CS or through opportunity cost lost for the enemy laner. If they're denied CS through that trade, or if they have to go back later on.
I have a better request. Can you do both? Like, why? Oftentimes there are ways that you can do both. Like,
Oh,
if you think about
absolutely,
it,
right.
there.
I'm
Like,
not
if you set yourself
suggesting-
up for it.
Yeah, I should clear. I don't necessarily mean that you have to trade one for the other.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, whenever you want to start harassing, poking, trading, it needs to be a net advantage for you.
yes.
Absolutely.
But obviously, like whether it's using skill shots to both hit the enemy and the creeps, timing your skills and auto attacks to come up in between so you can take the harass and still be able to get that cannon minion that's still about to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say that the trading stance and knowing how to trade properly, I think, are some of the fundamental skills of League of Legends that really everyone needs to learn. And it's how well you are able to execute on trading and understand how to punish people when they go for a CS while still continuing to get farm yourself. And looking for those opportunities. I mean, I can't go in forever because it's a very broad topic, and we did a whole episode on it way back when. But understanding how to trade is so huge. It really helps you to win lane a lot more often. And it's one of the easiest ways. Like, if you understand the trading stance better than your opponent, you will very frequently be able to outplay your lane opponents and gain an advantage. And the whole point of this episode is taking an advantage and building on it. And what better way to do that than just out trading them?
And
Yeah,
also,
one of the
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to, for a mathematical like aspect, people like this also increases your gold lead. If you can just think about it mentally, you're increasing your gold lead by consistently getting CS. But if you stop them from getting CS, then you're also increasing the lane gold lead because theirs is decreasing. So when you think about it, it's also furthering the net gain altogether when you do this effectively as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one big mistake a lot of people make with trying to harass using abilities while like CSing with auto attacks is that you have to be careful with positioning, because positioning is very, very key. And once again, like Frost said, one of those really fundamental sort of things, because incorrectly positioning and incorrectly hitting or positioning your skill shots when doing this can accidentally push the wave and sometimes put you in a bad position to where you're more susceptible to ganks, or it's easier for your opponent to CS under tower, things like that. So always keep that in mind too if you're trying to harass.
Yeah. I guess one other thing we want to talk about for gaining advantage that applies to both laners and junglers is learning to gank and counter gank. Once again, I think we've had 2 episodes in the past for ganking and jungling. But if you're in the position of trying to find a gank, your best opportunity is going to be in a lane that has a good mix of damage and CC between you and the laner. That's generally where you're going to find the most success. If it's just CC, they'll flash away at some point. If it's just damage, they'll never get caught. Look for the right setup and wards and whatnot. It's really hard to like summarize ganking here.
And you
Yeah,
can
I
gank
mean-
at any time. Don't like I keep seeing posts about people like, oh, if you want gank, stop pushing your lane. Sometimes that can be like the best time to gank, because that
'Cause
means
they don't expect
have
it.
no wards. They have no fucking wards. That means you're clear. You're golden. You can get into river. Like you can go through river and get into the actual lane. Like,
or just
in
go
the
or just go
bushes.
through lane
Or
too.
go,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You're like, there's so many more ways to get to the person if you push them in.
Yeah, I mean, just push every single advantage that you can get, and that's the key to carrying is pushing your advantages or pushing the advantages of your team and your lanes. As a jungler, a jungler can help carry a game by helping others to carry. Like, you don't have to necessarily be getting the kills yourself, but if you can set up your lanes to get those kills, that's carrying the game, because you put them in a position to where they're able to do what they should be doing, and you're just setting up your team for victory. That is a way of carrying, just looking for opportunities where you can gank and seeing, okay, this person is doing well in lane, let me threaten a tower dive or push this tower down, and that's going to get our team ahead. That's going to get that lane ahead, and we're going to snowball this into ABC. But always be thinking ahead if you're trying to carry, because you have to think, what is the next objective, what is the next thing that you have to do to
Exactly.
to help move this game along and carry your team to victory.
Doom is really hitting on the main point. And ultimately, what we're about to get into should hopefully help. One of the questions that comes up all the time, you'll see it everywhere, is, okay, I get a kill, I get 20 CS on my opponent, I'm 2 or 3-0 out of laning phase, and I always lose the game. What the hell is going on? Why can't I carry? Or oh, I'm playing support, like whatever, this is going on, I can't carry because I don't do enough damage, or like I do all these, like there's a lot of people put themselves in these situations where they, they're like, I've got this early lead, but I can't carry, and then they don't understand how to fill that gap. What we're about to talk about is, okay, you've established this early lead. Now what do you do with it?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think the number one thing people don't do when they start to get a lead early on is pressure that lead in other lanes by roaming.
Absolutely.
Especially now, if you're already starting to get a lead, it is important to start pushing down your lane early, getting that tower and roaming. Previous seasons, you could argue whether, if it's the right time or not to take down the tower. Now, in almost all scenarios, I would say if you get that lead, take down that tower as soon as possible and start roaming to other lanes.
And to that point, honestly, on a fundamental level, so many people forget that League of Legends is not team deathmatch and that it's an objective-based game. You're not going to win the game if you don't destroy the enemy nexus, and you need to destroy turrets to get there. So it's more not about you being 5-0 out of the laning phase. It's about, what did you do with that? Did you roam to help push down towers? Did you show up to secure dragons? Did you show up to help the team get Baron? Like, what did you do to help the team actually get objectives that will win you the game? And roaming is one of the best ways to take a lead from one spot on the map and translate that to all over the map.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter how fed your 5-0 LeBlanc is mid lane, if their top laner is a tank who is fed and can peel you off or just lock you down. Doesn't really matter come team fight time, as long as he locks you down and his team knows to follow up on you. Shut down gold.
Yeah. While you are still in lane, you can work on zoning your opponents away from CS and experience. And that's a good thing to do in lane, but I don't want to really focus on that too much here for this episode. We've talked about it before when we talked about trading. I just wanted to bring that up quick.
Yeah, it's about the key thing is you want to, as far as laning goes, and I think we can put most of laning to bed because we want to talk about what you do after you've gotten the advantages. Once you've cemented a lead, you want to make sure you hold on to it and prevent them from sort of grabbing their way back into the game. And zoning is a good tool to basically deny people from catching up with you.
Yeah. Let's see. We have a whole laundry list of things to talk about, and I know everyone just kind of scanning through to see which one to take next.
Yeah. I mean, what I put down next, and what I think is applicable is, so you've gotten a lead, and you're trying to carry the game. I mean, the first thing I would think to do is, okay, what is the next major objective to go for? What do I need to do to win the game? Kind of building off of what Doom said. And for me, that means evaluating my win conditions, understanding what on the team I need to support, where I need to be, and how I can impact the map. Does it mean showing up to a team fight and cleaning up as Katarina? Does it mean pressuring top lane as Tryndamere when they try and siege mid lane? Like, evaluating what you need to do and then pushing that advantage is going to be how you exert yourself. Even though you're one player on a team of 5, you can have a colossal impact on the game if you know what your win condition is and you execute on it really well.
And with this, also, never forget communication. Let your team know what you're doing. Let them know what you're planning on doing, all of that stuff.
Yeah. One point I want to bring up here, moving on, is about vision control and denial. It's I know vision is it's getting better, but it's still a little lackluster. It's important to start pushing up your vision as you get a lead. And I think it was when Horse Doctor was on, we talked about this a little bit for predicting enemy movements as a jungler, but this is very important for anyone. go watch one of your replays, toggle between having the Fog of War vision on and off, and see if you can predict where they will go. Later on in the game, this is really important. If you can get to the point where you can say, okay, I know their red buff is going to be up at the 27-minute mark. I can wait in this brush for them to come and then just kill them again and then take the red buff. Doing stuff like that really helps to snowball your lead ahead. So, oh my God, I love doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's pretty dirty, but it's pretty fun.
But
It's very
it
dirty.
feels a little dirty, but at the same time, that is, I don't want to say it's the most like technical thing you can do, but it's definitely one of the most strategic things of like planning out your next steps and working just on your predictions. If you can do that consistently, I guarantee like once you get a lead, you will cement that lead much more often.
If you do that, be careful of the enemy your enemy mid laner coming to gank you after like you just killed the guy, because like he'll immediately flag his mid laner down and be like, yo.
Right. I mean, I'm saying like more like this is more important later on in the game where their movements are more sporadic. People are moving more as groups, so there's no like defined lane anymore. But definitely, it's still important earlier in the game.
Yeah, TLDR really, I mean, if you want to snowball, it's really about always having a plan, always thinking 2 steps ahead. You always have to be ahead of your enemy. You have to be ahead of the game. You have
steps
to
ahead,
know. Yeah, you have to know what you're going to do
One
with
step
each
ahead.
advantage that you get. That is the
At least
number
have an
one
idea of what
thing
you want to do.
to carry.
Like maybe not
Yes.
strictly what you plan, like which lane I'm going to push exactly at which time.
No.
But just an idea of like, okay, this is how we're going to win the game, and this is what we need to do to get to that point. So, and
Right.
be the catalyst amongst your team, because you are the carry. So, it helps if you also
Yeah.
help them.
Sorry.
It's
Remember-
about being in the
Carry.
right. It's about being in the right place at the right time.
Mhm.
And if you start to win lane and you're like playing AD carry, but you don't show up to team fights and you don't force down objectives, then it's really hard for like your team to push that advantage and start to snowball and carry ahead of the enemy team. It's just buying time for the enemy team to catch up to you somehow. And you never know when one of your teammates might get caught and then someone else on the enemy team starts to snowball, and then it's really hard for you. What you want to do is once you've got your advantage, you recognize where you need to be. And that varies from champion to champion. It could be something as simple as peeling for your Fed Vayne. It could be something as forcing engagements when you have a lead as like a Malphite, or it can be being the AD carry that shows up to take towers and doesn't die in team fights while doing a shit ton of damage. Like everything varies, and that's why you need to think about what your win condition is. And once you know what it is, you need to be there.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up pretty well. And if you really want to get into the more in-depth discussion, because like we said, this was kind of an overview, go back to episode 23 on snowballing and really check that out. And from there,
Can I
we have
just
some
say
more-
like two
Yeah.
real quick things? Because I know I agree. Like we really can't get into everything, but there's two common. First of all, there's a lot of common misconceptions out there. The first is if I'm playing a supportive champion and I'm main support or something, what can I do? I can't carry. My teammates aren't good. Like every single role can carry in League of Legends. Every single role. If you put like a high diamond Masters Challenger player and then they're playing any role in the game, they will climb out of the lower ranks because they know their role inside and out and they know what they need to do to succeed. There's no such thing as I can't carry from this role. There may be a case where a game is basically unwinnable in a particular game, but there's always something you could have done better, and the more you improve, the more you will see results and you will eventually climb. So Get out of the mindset of I can't carry, because there's always something you could do better.
You can and you will.
And
Just do it.
the other point I wanted to say, it goes right with the Medjai's discussion, is if you are that person on the team that's like, you're like one of the only people on your team that's doing exceptionally well, and your team is relying on you to help carry them to victory, make sure you play smart, think with your head. Like, don't go face check a bush, rape by Baron, and then, die and give the enemy team Baron. Like, it's really important that you don't throw a lead.
Mm-hmm.
That's one huge step to carrying is just making sure you don't throw away a lead.
Yeah. So a quick secondary topic to talk about here tonight is how to be more aggressive in your games to make those sort of iffy calls like tower diving. How you can just do it.
Jeez. These are
Just
like the most fun though.
do it.
If anyone's looking for a new wallpaper, I'll probably post those Shia LaBeouf wallpapers that I made again on the subreddit. I have it set on my wallpaper right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Going back to ganking when your lanes are pushing, just because for some reason this really struck a nerve with me the other day, and I feel like talking about it again. Like, ganking when someone is pushing is one of the best opportunities to gank, because you have an open opportunity. Like we had said, there's a lot of ways in, there's a lot of doors to get there, and with that means you're probably gonna have to tower dive. These are the best opportunities to tower dive, because oftentimes those will be like top lane or mid lane, where you have some sort of CC or way to get in and out. And I'm saying this specifically for, like, as you're about to get to that point where you're getting to be the carry, and this is the perfect opportunity to take that risk and get to that point where you will be the carry, is tower dives. If you're pushing, call for a jungler gank and say, we're going to dive this guy, because no one ever expects to get dove. Like, especially in solo queue, no one ever expects to get dove. Like, it's always frustrating when you get dove. So, and to say that also with team fights too, that's also a great opportunity. Is if they're in mid lane and you significantly overpower them in team fighting potential, just dive them. Just freaking dive them. Get out of turret range and then clean up the fight like it's nothing.
A lot of it is just about recognizing an advantage and then seizing the opportunity to capitalize on it. And for example, where a support can be hugely impactful, like as Rishon said, if a team fight is like on the fringes of breaking out, like there's like almost an ARAM situation in mid, and then someone missteps, if you have some sort of like crazy initiate AoE CC and you catch people, like that's carrying a fight. Like that's hugely impactful.
It's more than anything, it's important to monitor what your champion can do, what the enemies can do, and using that to your advantage. Like, even let's say in a general matchup in the top lane, you guys have kind of been even for most of that time, but now you're going back and you've finally finished off that big item for you. I don't know, maybe you're playing Jax in the top lane, you just finally finished your Rage Blade. Now you have a big item advantage, and now you can start snowballing off of that if you're the one to start engaging and realizing, okay, now I have a definite advantage judging how things went before. Now that I have this big power spike for me, I can probably win this lane. But you got to be willing to start making those risks based on your assessment of the situation, whether it's in a matchup or in a tower dive or anything else that would seem risky to you.
And the assessment being, at that time, you're past level 6, you have Rage Blade, you probably have boots and a pot, maybe some pots. So you're going to be able to fight, and like you're taking all these factors and recognizing them. You notice your level power spike, you notice your item power spike, and that's what you're looking at to analyze what exactly is going in your favor for this to happen.
Yeah, and we'll be always willing to do this for you guys, but especially if you're looking to learn how to tower dive and stuff like that, it's really good to start watching your own replays and figuring out, okay, exactly what did we do to make that work? What cooldowns were up for us? What cooldowns weren't up for them? What was the tower aggro when we started? Yada, yada, going on and on, analyzing all those different things that you can do, looking at a replay. So that way, next time you get into a game, you feel a lot more confident about doing it.
Yeah, self-analysis is really, we say it over and over again, being able to analyze your play and say, what did I do here? What could I have done better is absolutely core to getting better at this game. And similarly, on the topic of carrying, a lot of times people get hung up about things like KDA and they get really, really hung up about it. But I mean, think of it this way. If you were to get 2 kills and then just AFK, like you technically have a good KDA, but at the same time, you're not carrying a game.
On the flip side of a KDA thing, there used to be, I don't know if people still do it or not, but a singed strategy where all you would do is die.
Proxy singed.
Yeah, proxy singed to the extreme. You just kept farming behind enemy lines no matter what.
Yep.
You'd end up with like 11 deaths by the end of the game, but because of all the shit you pulled, you'd still win with 11 deaths.
Eventually, people would realize that you were too tanky to deal with, but you weren't worth any gold.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to deal with you. So they didn't want to deal with you, but that was their mistake because you're just creating more of an issue over time.
Yeah.
And that's because even though that Singe was dying over and over and over again, he was applying so much pressure that the enemy team felt like they had to deal with him. That is more impactful, and that is actually going to be, as crazy as that sounds, that is actually more impactful than somebody who, just gets kills and then just only recalls and like never tries to work to get objectives, never tries to actually win the game by destroying the enemy nexus.
Anything else you guys want to say on this, or can we move on?
I think we got a lot of listener questions to talk about.
Yep, and not enough time to really get through all of them here, but we're going to start with Brandon since we had that on the docket for last week here. Brandon writes in saying, "Hey guys, I'm wondering about the difference in competition between solo queue and ranked. I'm currently level 30 and started playing towards the beginning of Season 5. I still have yet to get a ranked game under my belt, but was curious. Will I notice a more level playing field in ranked? I find that typically when I hop into a solo queue game, I get paired with silvers and golds. Is that some way related to MMR? Games tend to snowball one way or the other, and in the end, make it much less enjoyable. If the playing field is more consistent in ranked, I think I might enjoy it more."
Okay.
He's just starting to get an idea of what ELO is and like what it means for each division and like silver and gold and stuff. So like your normal MMR, what you're saying is that somewhere related to your MMR when you're playing with silvers and golds that are ranked? Yes, but you have to understand that your normal MMR is based off of just your normal games, and your ranked MMR will be based off of just your ranked games. Now that's not to say that they will be the same. Some people, there's a lot of different reasons. I can't list them all as to why they would differ. So don't take it as the holy grail as this person is a silver player because they have a silver rating, but they are silver in ranked, so that you have that at least.
Yeah. To actually, before we do that, let's jump back just a little bit and explain at a high level what your MMR is, which is your underlying matchmaking rating. It's for each queue you have a sort of hidden skill rating, which is your actual skill rating according to Riot, and you actually can't see it. It's not that gold border, the gold 1, the silver 4, whatever. Like that's not actually your MMR. And each queue has a different set. So somebody who plays a lot of ranked might have a different MMR in ranked than they do in normals, and vice versa. Now, in ranked, there's often discrepancies where you see somebody who's at a slightly higher league playing with a slightly lower league, and that's actually the MMR. It is perfectly possible that somebody who could, to Asterishan's point, somebody who could be bronze 1 could actually have a higher MMR than somebody who's sitting at silver 5, even though it's like, oh, he's silver, I'm bronze, I could actually even be
I
higher
had it.
than him.
I had it. Back in season 3 when they reintroduced the new LP system, you couldn't drop in division. You can drop like elos, like gold to silver. This was later on you could, but before you couldn't. And I was sitting at, I think it was silver 5. I dropped so low that I was playing with bronze 3s. So I know that there are people that had higher MMR than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, with all right, so going in first off, you getting into ranked now, it's a much different experience than a lot of people have dealt with because ranked is kind of becoming a new battlefield for people with the introduction of the new queue. So I will say that, which in a way may work in your favor, it may not. Kind of depends on your approach. With going into ranked, your first 10 games are going to be placement games. Your placement matches, what they're doing is basically trying to determine your ranked MMR. It's going to start you off playing against people that are around your normal queue MMR. And then you'll notice throughout those placements,
That's not
maybe
true.
there's
It uses the ranked QMMR, but your ranked QMMR is set at 1300 for a new player. It's set. It's a preset.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody comes at like a preset. Either it's 13 or 12. I can't remember.
I think it's
which.
1250 now because that's
Okay.
like the
They may have changed it
they
multiple
put that
times. but-
right. They put you like right at that 50% line
Mm-hmm.
when you first start out.
No, everybody starts at the same level playing field, so to say,
Mm-hmm.
with in ranked comparison. But you could play with, hell, I've done it. Played with diamonds in your provisionals, just because they haven't been ranked.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad on that. I'm sorry, guys. So what you're going to notice in your placements is that your placements are going to vary wildly in the people that are in it, the matchups, the everything. There may be some games where you just overwhelmingly win. There may be games where you just overwhelmingly lose, or where one lane just gets completely obliterated because of the skill matchup and stuff like that. So your first 10 games are going to be really weird. Don't get discouraged if you really want to play ranked because then you kind of go from there once you're placed and you have a placement and that's where you're at.
Yeah, and to Doom's point, it's not just don't get discouraged by the games themselves. A lot of people get the wrong impression that when they hop into ranked for the first time, they think, oh, after these 10 matches, the system knows exactly where I belong.
No.
And then they think like, oh, I really want to be put in silver or something when I first start.
Everybody has a personal rioter that scrutinizes their play and determines where they go. All right,
So the
you're
tribunals
in silver 2. No,
Yeah.
silver 3. Silver 3.
Oh, we're
yeah.
gonna spite this person and put him in bronze 5.
Yeah.
No, but the main point is, regardless of wherever your placements place you, and this is really applicable now because a lot of people are freaking out about placements, is regardless of where you get placed, if the system doesn't really know until you play enough games, and if you continue to play, the system will eventually place you around people of your skill level. Now that might be a lot higher or a lot lower than what your initial placement is. So I wouldn't fret too much about whether you end up much lower than you originally expected or much higher than you really expected.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, to get a really accurate rating, you probably have to play at least about 100 games. And even then, it just kind of goes in. A lot of it can play in your mindset too. You have to have a little bit different of a mindset when going into ranked. You have to, especially if you're going in solo queue by yourself, because everyone is more competitive in ranked. Everyone wants to win that much more, which can cause people to sometimes get a bit saltier, be a little more adamant, stuff like that. So if you're gonna play ranked, be serious about it, dedicate time to it, and really say, like, really analyze those games. What did you do good? What did you do wrong? I really recommend recording them, watching your replays, do like Plays TV. You can set that up and it'll record your games, and then go back and watch the game and see, like, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? And it ranked is really up to you. Like, uh a lot of people enjoy it and a lot of people don't enjoy it. I'm one that doesn't really enjoy ranked. One, I don't have a ton of time to play, and so I'm not able to get many ranked games in, for one. But two, uh I don't I'm not an extremely competitive person, so I don't really enjoy it. I prefer to play with friends. Now, with the new dynamic queue, it makes it easier to play with friends, which is kind of cool. Um, so that might even get me to play make ranked more, simply because I'll be playing with friends. But it's really kind of up to you on
Mhm.
how you want to approach ranked. Do you really want to go for, say, I want to hit gold one, I want to hit, plat whatever, you know, and go for it? Or do you want to just kind of play it here and there? If you're gonna just play it here and there, I don't know. Yeah, if you
I
want the
do
banner
really
and
want.
stuff, cool, but
I do really want to. I completely agree with everything Doom said. Ranked is definitely not something for everyone, and you don't have to be in it. But to jump to the listener's question, he asked, "Will I notice a more level playing field in ranked?" And I'd say, out of the although solo queue and ranked in general gets a lot of slack for a lot of different things, one of the things that it does offer is it is actually one of the most level playing fields the game can offer,
Mhm.
at least over a large period of games. Because in normals, you have people that are queued up with like diamonds and bronze players, or you have people that are like, oh, it's normal, so I'll try out,
With the intent
this.
to troll.
Yeah. The Katarina support comes out and it's like, okay, it's normals, whatever.
Mhm.
It more people in ranked are actually trying to play to win, and more people in ranked are around the same skill level.
I'd agree to that. Yeah.
Do we have time for another one here?
Sure, let's just go for it.
Yeah,
Let's just
we
do
do.
it.
All right. Okay, so Jake writes in saying, I've been playing LoL for 3 years now, and I still have problems understanding some of the most basic concepts of League. Things such as units of measurement and base player stats. Whenever I hear a patch note analysis and hear about tweaks like 5 base AD increase or attack range increases, these things just go over my head. Can you help me understand these changes and how they affect the game, such as champions getting AD additions or subtractions? How to approximate units? How much armor do you need for a certain amount of AD? Would love to hear my question on the podcast. Nailed it. Thanks again for all the help, friends. Have a good day.
and thanks for writing in.
Yeah, I like this question. This is a good question.
Yeah, I mean, it can be very difficult when you're looking at patch notes and and we have a episode that we went back and we analyzed, like, how to read patch notes.
Yeah, I was
Um,
trying to find the exact one.
Yeah, I'll try to find it and post in the notes of the episode. Um, but also the the Trinity Force podcast, the proper, they do a really good job of breaking that down. So I really recommend listening to them. But a lot of times, a lot of it has to do with high level play. It's stuff that a lot of really high level players are going to notice. If you're a lower level player, you may not really notice it. For example, like when you say tweaks like 5 base AD increase, um, maybe that's a champ that has trouble last hitting, or maybe that's a champ that has a weaker early game and they're trying to add a little more power to their early game. Or maybe it's a champion that is more focused on building tankier items and needs to have that little bit of damage supplement. there's a lot of reasons that they may do it. So really look at the champ when you see changes like that, and base it off of, all right, what is that champ? What is their play style? How do they play? And then it makes it a little easier to figure that out. A lot of times, if you take like your favorite champs, you can see changes like that and be like, okay, so they probably did it because of this. So sometimes it can be difficult to know that when you don't. And it's episode 28, actually.
Yeah, it's episode 28. I think it's called "Doing It with Lux."
Yes.
That's where we
Nice.
talked all about patch notes and how to understand the different changes, like some of the things that Jake mentions in his email.
As far as like changes to base AD attack speed and stuff like that goes, I know it can seem small. 5 AD changing attack speed from like 0.68 to point like 6.5 or 6.2. Especially attack speed's a little misleading because it seems like that's really small, but it's also the fact that they base all of the percentage increases from items on. So what may first seem small can actually be a large change. And the same thing applies to base AD, base movement speed, other stats like that. Those are the things that you start with that really build up throughout the rest of the game. So when you're taking away or giving that power earlier, it's a way for Riot to really control the win rates of champions without affecting their playstyle too much.
Yeah, and it's easy to overlook how much some of these somewhat small things are. Like Hyper's saying, like attack range is so vital on so many champions, and especially if you think about bot lane and AD carries, like some of the ones that are really dominant in the early game are like Caitlyn, because she actually outranges a lot of other AD carries with her abilities. So they try and go for a last hit, you outrange them, you can punish them. If you tweak the ranges, suddenly it's the person who has the longer range has more room to harass safely. It's harder to punish them. They can get the abilities off or initiate from further away. Something as simple as a little range change could honestly make a huge difference in how a champion feels and how effective they are with that ability.
Absolutely. And so definitely look at, like we were saying, their play style and how it might affect them, stuff like that. There are a lot of little levers, and Riot talks about this a lot, that every champ has levers that they can tweak that may just adjust them that little tiny bit that they need. And so sometimes they're just kind of tweaking levers to see, all right, how is this going to affect them? Because maybe, say, a champ has a really high win rate, but they don't want to just nerf them into the ground. So sometimes they just pull little levers to see, how is this going to affect it? Maybe it'll affect it this way, and then just kind of let it play out and see how it happens. So,
I have an idea for the listener. As far as like getting to understand what like a patch note like and what they feel like, and getting in tune with how it feels to recognize patches. When you notice something happen to a specific champion that you enjoy or someone that you play frequently, try and see if you can notice the changes yourself. And really try and like really buckle down and try and see if you can notice the changes. And if you can, then awesome. If you can't, then it probably didn't affect a play. It probably affected a play style that you just didn't utilize, which could be the case, and that's fine. But if you get that like understanding and that comprehension, you'll begin to understand what it means to other players as well. Like these little tweaks, when you notice, oh, okay, so that's what that happened when it happened to me. That's what that happens when it probably happens to somebody else. So you can start to correlate what's going to happen to a champion when you start to see these little changes and these little tweaks. If you can see what would it do to my champion if it were done to me. So, I mean, start with the basis and work from there. Start from a ground that is solid, a foundation, and work from there if you really want to understand what these patch notes do and what they feel like.
Yeah, and he says also other parts of his question are how can I approximate units? Our joke is TMOs.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't
so
that really a joke?
It's actually
It's
true.
kind of how you measure.
it is a
units.
good way to measure though. So look at TMO in game, and then you can usually approximate units based on TMOs.
Mhm.
So
One TMO is roughly 100 units. It used to be exactly, but I'm pretty sure they downsized TMO to 80 units
I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
a while ago. But I mean, what you can also do if you go to the LOL wiki page, um, under each champion's ability, it'll also give a range for how long that ability is. So when you're in game looking at the what's the word I want to use?
The ability range indicator.
Range indicator, right? You get a good understanding of how long 1400 units is for like Jinx's Zap,
Yeah.
or Flash being 400 units, or the ward range being 600 units.
Yeah.
Haber hit the nail on the head. Like the number by itself won't make any sense to you. Like,
Mhm.
oh, this is 1,000 range. But if you play like Ezreal and then you see how long his Q is, and then you're like, oh, this is about 1,000 range. And then if you play like a champion, it's like you look on a wiki and it says they have like 1,100 range. It's like, oh, this is 10% more than what Ezreal's Q range is.
Is
And like,
Ezreal's Q really 1,000?
Yes,
I think so.
I don't want to say for sure.
So
but that sounds it may
what-
be 1100.
whatever the range is, like as soon as you have a reference point, you can kind of look at a number online and then you can say, oh, that seems kind of far. Or, oh, that seems like pretty short
That seems
range.
kind
or
of
something.
far.
Mhm.
1,100. Zap
But
is long, and that's
it is.
1400.
Oh, Zap is crazy long range.
Yeah, it's 1425.
That one I know
I
is
think.
about that, but I don't know if damn, that's long.
But
No,
the main point is the number, the units don't really mean as much as
Mystic
what
Shot
you
is
can take away.
1150 by the way.
1150. Dang it, 50 off.
Wow.
But it's just, yeah, once you start getting a reference for that, it becomes easier to visualize what 100 more, 100 less units will look like to you.
Mhm.
And that's about it. I'm not exactly sure what you mean from this third point in the question.
How much armor do you need for a certain amount of AD? Well, I think he means to block AD, but you should understand that with more armor, you negate a % of damage.
Yeah, a really
Nice.
basic way to put that into math terms, armor is calculated, it's 1/100 plus your armor. No, shoot. I had the formula up, but he is right. It is based on a percentage. So the more armor you get, the less you get out of it. Let me see. I have a whole. Last weekend I went through because I was curious, and I did a lot of math over Last Whisper and stuff like that to see exactly how much it's worth
It also reduces a % of damage as well,
with Lord Dominic's regards.
just in general.
But to his general question, armor is very effective against attack damage, and it's the main thing you want to get. But at some point, you can't just get 1,000,000 armor. Like at some point, you also need health, or you also may need to deal with the magic damage threats on their team. So it's not as simple as, oh, they have this much damage, so I need this much armor. It's more like, I need to get an armor item to deal with their heavy attack damage. Okay, now I've got some armor. Now I might need some health
Yeah.
or round it out.
Yeah, no, I just pulled up my spreadsheet here. It is 100 divided by 100 plus your armor. So just as a rough point, when you have 10 armor, you're taking 90% of the damage you would have taken. At 50
So you're
armor,
reducing 10% damage.
yeah, at 50 armor, you're taking only 66% of the damage. 100 armor, you are taking 50% of the damage. And as you can see, as you keep adding more on, to get another 5% off that, you have to get another 18 armor past that, where before going from 85 to 100 armor, you're going from 54. Yeah, okay,
So
yeah.
what does that mean to you as the player? Well, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the percentages, which I'm not incredibly familiar with the percentages past like 100, like up to that point, like if you understand that this will reduce 30% of the damage that I deal in magic damage, that's where you start to correlate it. Okay, they have this much magic resist, which means they're reducing 30% of damage, which means that my attacks will do 30% less damage. So this is how much damage I'm going to do against their health, is basically what you're trying to calculate when you are, or I mean, that's at least what I calculate when I am trying to decide if I'm going to open up on somebody or if I'm going to try and kill somebody, is will my damage be enough? Well, if it is, then I go for it. But that's the calculations you do.
So I guess that's one way to answer your question. If we're not getting it quite right, feel free to email us back and we can address that point a little bit more for you. But I think that's going to do it for us here this week on the Four Words podcast. So always, like before, write in any questions you have. If, like we said at the beginning of the episode, if you have someone you know or you yourself know anything about producing audio, give us an email about that. We'll be glad to talk to you about that. So we'll see you next week here, guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.